This is the Hovsco HovAlpha, an e-bike that claims to go 28 miles an hour and up to 80 miles on a charge. Now, we brought it into the tool show lab where we're going to carefully measure its speed, acceleration, braking range, seat height, and more. Then we'll put the results into our score sheet, calculate the values, and find out where it lands on our tool list. Let's go. Hey guys, I'm Rob, and this is the Tool List, where we test without the biased intervention of humans and score things using a custom algorithm that gets more accurate the more we test. Today we're continuing our e-bike series with this. This is the Hovsco HovAlpha. It's a front suspension fat tire bike with a 750 watt rear hub motor, a 48 volt 20 amp hour battery, which they say will get you up to 80 miles on a charge. It has a huge 450 pound payload capacity and the highly sought after torque sensor for the ultimate in pedal assist. And you can get your own for around $19.99 today. Always check the manufacturer's websites for the latest prices. Now, before we get into our performance testing, we're first going to highlight its features, all of which are calculated into the final score, starting with the brakes. The HovAlpha has hydraulic disc brakes, which use fluid that transfers the force from the brake lever to the caliper. This is most often more powerful, longer lasting, and requires less maintenance than a typical mechanical brake. Always happy to see them on the HovAlpha. Next, we look at the size of the disc brakes. On a heavy e-bike, we want to see at least 180 millimeters, and on the HovAlpha, we find exactly that. Moving on to safety and starting with the headlight. Now, we offer points for including a headlight, which we think is incredibly important on an e-bike like this that you may be driving around in traffic. There are extra points though if the light is bright enough for us to actually ride at 20 miles an hour in the dark. Now, the HovAlpha's light will definitely help you be seen, but it's just not bright enough to light the way at night. But that's something you can easily fix with an aftermarket bike light. The tail light's important too, and it's pretty normal to find a light on the back of an e-bike, but there's bonus points to be had if it also acts like a brake light. Now, the HovAlpha's rear light is actually just a battery-powered LED and does not operate as brakes. Next up is the suspension. You're likely going to find a set of suspension forks on the front of each bike. This is going to smooth out bumps and just make your ride more comfortable. The front forks are adjustable too, which is a bonus. Next, let's cover throttle and pedal assist. Most bikes will have a throttle, either a twist grip like you find on a motorcycle or a thumb throttle that you operate with, you guessed it, your thumb. The HovAlpha has a skinny thumb throttle, which, is fine. As we explained in our first e-bike test, there are two very different kinds of pedal assist. There's a cadence sensor, but runs on its own, and a torque sensor that measures the amount of force you put into pedaling and automatically applies a bit of help. Now, cadence sensors are less expensive, but also a lot less intuitive. Essentially, they just push your bike to a predetermined speed, no matter how fast you're pedaling. Fortunately, the HovAlpha is only the second bike we tested with an actual torque sensor on it, just like the one on the HovCart. And just like on the HovCart, we absolutely love the torque sensor on the HovAlpha. Let's talk about the battery, specifically the battery size. The HovAlpha comes with a 960 watt-hour battery, which isn't that great. It's bigger than the 720 watt found on the HovCart, but still far smaller than the 1440 watt-hour found on both the Fukair Gemini X and the Romat Link Dolphin. Still, Hovsco says that you should get around 65 to 85 miles per charge. We'll get to the range test in a moment. Of course, the size of your battery doesn't matter if it's empty. Each bike comes with a charger rated at how many amps it outputs. The more the amps, the quicker you're back on the road. Now, the Hovsco HovAlpha comes with a 3 amp charger, which was tied for third among the bikes we've tested so far. Based on its battery size and that charger, you're looking at just about a 7-hour charging time from 0 to 100. Now, these bikes are very heavy, not just because of the batteries, motor, and electronics, but because the frame has to be strong enough to support all of that as well, which means the frame has to be heavier too. The HovAlpha weighs in at 78.3 pounds, making this bike the lightest we've tested yet. Now, with our audience, we know storage is important. If you're going to use a bike to replace your car or truck on a nice day, you'll need places to safely store your stuff. The HovAlpha doesn't include either a front or rear rack, but they do offer them for $89 each. Gears. The HovAlpha has a 7-speed Shimano gear shifter and derailleur. As it turns out, all 6 of the bikes had the same number of speeds, which left us a bit disappointed. When you're really pushing these guys at speeds over 20 miles an hour, even 7th gear will leave you pedaling at a ridiculous pace. A higher gear would go a long way. Next, we have height range. We bottom out and then extend the seat to the maximum recommended height and measure the difference. The HovAlpha can be adjusted from 32 inches to 40 inches, a range of 8 inches in total, which puts it in 4th place. Now, we don't have a good way to test cargo capacity without purposefully destroying the bikes. During our endurance and acceleration testing, we put around 480 pounds of weight across the bike in our test trailer, and all 6 bikes managed that just fine. So we're going to trust the manufacturer's numbers for this one. The cargo capacity of the HovAlpha is rated at 450 pounds, which tied for first place. The HovAlpha is a class 3 with a thumb throttle, which means it'll ride on throttle alone up to 20 miles an hour and up to 28 with pedal assist. Alright, it's time for performance testing. First up, let's look at acceleration. For this test, we wanted to use the throttle only to get from 0 to 15 miles an hour as fast as we could. First, I got on the bike along with a heavy-duty trailer with a few hundred pounds of weight, bringing the total to 480 pounds. Then, for the other end, we've got her. Some say she wears bike shoes when she hikes and only drinks wine from a sports bottle. All we know is she's called the Twig, and at 120 pounds, she's likely going to get moving faster and go farther on a charge. Let's get testing. We learned early on that you can rarely trust the computers on these bikes, so instead, we're using a highly accurate performance analyzer to get exact speeds and times. When the HovAlpha loaded to full weight, it took 13.99 seconds to get to 15 miles an hour, landing it in 3rd place. Next, the Twig took a turn and was able to get to 15 miles an hour in only 4.19 seconds, placing it in 2nd, right behind its brother, the HovCart. Moving on to top speed, now to get this number, we turned them all on to their highest assist, and I pedaled as hard as I could on a very flat road. And this is where a large story unfolds. It's rated at 28 miles an hour, and we actually hit 29, which is awesome. But it means that the HovCart, which has the same motor, is just as capable. If you watch the HovCart review, you know that we had a technical issue with their computer, and it was causing the HovCart to top out at only 25 miles an hour. But clearly after this test, we know it will go to at least 28, if not 29, as soon as they send out an update. Can't wait for that. Now, once you're going that fast, you're gonna wanna stop fast too. To test the brakes, I sped each bike up to 15 miles an hour and then applied both brakes as hard as I could. The HovAlpha was able to come to a stop in 12.5 feet, which gave it 3rd place. Not that bad, but its HovCart brother topped our charts with a really short 7.5 feet. And finally, let's talk about range. Hovsco says you should be able to get up to 80 miles on pedal assist mode. Since we can't reliably pedal, we instead set each bike to 20 miles an hour and ran the full battery out on throttle alone. Each bike was run around a 3-mile test circuit that simulates a typical city commute with lots of speed adjustments and turns. I would ride it first with my 480-pound setup and then run the battery all the way down until it quit. Then we would completely recharge and have the Twig do the same. With a full battery and a heavy load, I was able to get 18.32 miles, putting it in 5th place, and the Twig was able to get 41.47 miles, landing it in 3rd, which is really impressive considering its smaller battery. To determine efficiency, we took the Twig's range numbers and calculated how many watt hours it was burning through per mile. And it came out to only 23.15 watts per mile, earning it 2nd place for efficiency. And finally, let's talk value. To assign a value score, we took the current price of each bike and then tallied up all the bike's other points and then divided those points by the dollar amount. While our resulting number is completely arbitrary to you, it allows us to generate a rank that you can easily understand. In this case, the Hovsco HovAlpha earned a value score of 5.18, which puts it in 4th place for value. Now, I want to remind you that all of these e-bike companies regularly put these bikes on sale. That can drastically change the value of these bikes and their position on our list. So if a bike checks almost all of the boxes you're looking for and it suddenly goes on sale, it might just be your best purchase. So now we're done examining the features, testing the performance, and even measuring its value. When we add all of the scores up, we get a final score that ranges between 1 and 10. Now, if you'd like to learn more about our adaptive scoring system, check out our first e-bike review where we go more in depth. Now, with everything calculated, the HovAlpha gets an 8.1, which puts it in 3rd place overall. Now, the HovAlpha hits most of the marks that we look for. It's lacking good lighting, but personally, I tend to replace all my bike lighting with hugely overpowered options like companies from Olight. So that can still be fixed. The power is good, top speed was great, and it's a really good looking bike. We like it. If your budget's around $2,000 and you want a proper torque sensor, the HovAlpha is an excellent choice. In the coming days, we'll be publishing a video for each of these 5 other bikes right here on the tool list. And shortly after that, we'll launch our first class of power tool testing drill drivers. You won't want to miss it. Now, full disclosure, while our testing is all unbiased, we feel obligated to let you know the bike was provided to us for free from Hovsco specifically for this testing, with the understanding, of course, that we don't control the tests nor the scores. Consequently, the participating brands have no say in our scoring or content. That's it for this one. If you'd like to learn more about the Hovsco HovAlpha, we'll have a link to their website in the description. I'll see you next time.